Good evening and welcome to our first Reactor Control Room live stream. We're going to be going live once a month initially, perhaps a few more times a month if this becomes popular. It's the first sort of outreach now to start communicating with our users better and also introducing our amazing talented creators to you. We've got several interviews today. We've got Basti, who's created Lone Fungus, and we've also got Clayton and Jacob, who created Splotches. We'll be talking to them, Lone Fungus just in a few minutes, and then later on to Jacob and Clayton. And we are also going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a live make a game in 30 minutes, which is a terrifying prospect, but we will get on with it. And I'm sure we'll do well. The MFA that we'll be working with will be provided after the stream. You'll be able to download that and try and make the game yourself. And we've also got some details of the Steam sale with several games on, including the ones that we're featuring tonight. And we were going to do a deep dive into the array object, but unfortunately the preparation material I created has just stopped working properly. So rather than confuse everyone on a difficult topic, I'm going to save that for the next stream. So with all that said, I'm going to now switch over to our stream with Basti. He's going to be playing through Lone Fungus while we talk and telling you a bit about how he created it and maybe what he's doing next. So, Basti, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for joining us. You get the honour of being our very first interview, so congratulations to you.
Thank you. I feel honoured.
Good. So, we're seeing Lone Fungus on the screen now. I saved playing this until I was doing the research for the stream, and I must admit I got quite hooked. It's just fantastic. I mean, the graphics, the sounds, the gameplay, it's really, really polished. I was super, super impressed. So
that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, it's really, really good game. So it felt to me like it had quite a sort of a Japanese theme in some of the style. I was just wondering what actually inspired you to make the game.
I mean, initially I was making like a Hollow Knight like game, and I guess it's still kind of very inspired by Hollow Knight, but I guess what you're seeing, like maybe the Japanese influence is from a more like retro games like Mega Man and Castlevania, because those were the games that I played like when I was a kid.
Sure.
And there's like a lot of that in this game.
Yeah. I can certainly see some of those old classic mechanics going on in there. Yeah, so, I mean, what did you enjoy most about making this game? What was the really killer feature of it for you?
I think maybe the scope of the game. It's like a really big game, and making something that big, I guess, was fun, but also a bit painful. But when I started making this game, I really wanted to make like a huge game. I don't know what. I mean, I liked the whole process. Like, I had super fun making this game. I love making games. It's a dream job.
Yes, indeed, for a lot of people. And how big is the game actually? How long would it actually take you to play it through from start to finish, do you think?
If you rush it, it's probably like 15 hours. But if you take your time, it's probably like 50 hours, or maybe even 60 or 70.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
Depending on like how fast you are, I guess.
I mean, if you're me, that's possibly even 75 hours, because I'm best at puzzles and things, but anything with platforms just challenges my poor brain. So
yeah, this game has some crazy optional platforming that like probably like 30 or 40% of the playtime is gonna be just the like really painful optional platforming sections that
Sure.
are like hidden all over the place.
And as for actually making this in Fusion, I mean, Fusion has quite a unique way of working and allows you to really do sort of graphics first. And if you were ever taught traditional coding, they always say get your code and your base running first and then make it look pretty. But I mean, that's one of the reasons I love Fusion so much, that you get to do the graphics and really flesh out how it feels first. Did you find that was quite helpful for you making this?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm not sure if I could even make a game like this in any other engine, because I'm not like I don't know how to code in any language. So, and this was actually my first Fusion game.
Wow.
I've never made a game in Clicked in Fusion before this, so
Okay,
a lot of
that's pretty,
like I had to learn a
next
lot.
level.
I mean, I used to, like 20 years ago, we bought a little program that some of you might know called Click and Play.
Yep, I do. I started
Right.
out using that one.
Yeah, and then we had Games Factory. So I used to make games in both that and Games Factory, but I was like 10 years old, so
Sure.
I made like the simplest, smallest games possible.
Well, I was actually a little bit older than that. I actually started on Amos on the Commodore Amiga computer,
Oh,
which was developed by Francois, who co-founded Click Team, of course. So when
oh,
I was
really?
at school,
Okay.
sort of working with this thing, geeking around in the playground in the corner on my own, and like Francois was my sort of my programming god then, and now I work for the company he founded, so it's quite a surreal.
Yeah, I
path
didn't
for
know
me.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah, it's actually a very cool language. I still use it every now and then on an emulator and look at my old code. I wrote loads of stuff. I think I even wrote a paint package, sort of like emulating Deluxe Paint. It was a common graphics tool on PC and Amiga back then. So yeah, all sorts of
Awesome.
stuff. So anyway, back to Fusion and your game. I mean, what did you find most helpful that Fusion offered you as a tool for creating this?
I mean, I think the event system in Fusion is awesome. Like, it's super simple and logical, and you can make stuff so fast, like bosses and like some of the stuff that probably would take a long time in other engines. You can like do really fast in Fusion. So I could do like a prototype boss in a couple of hours,
Yeah.
and then you just fine tune it as it goes. So the event system is awesome. I love it, and it's just gotten better also with some of the new stuff that has been added to the game.
Sure.
Or to the engine.
What
I
of the
mean.
new stuff? I mean, what in particular have you found useful there?
I don't remember everything, but I really liked the. I mean, this is maybe not the event system, but I really liked the frame in frame function. Like that helped me a lot with a project like this. Like my Lone Fungus has like, I think like 600 rooms or like frames. It's called in Fusion, and just being able to store a lot of objects in only in like a storage frame.
Yeah.
And then include it in every frame. That's been so helpful.
Yeah.
But in that same update, you guys added like tons of features. I can't remember which ones right
Sure,
now,
sorry, I put you on
but
the
I
spot
remember
there,
that update was huge. Like
Yeah.
it had so much.
And did you?
I think one of
Sorry.
one of them was the. It's called something with expression. Can't remember now. You could like I can't remember what it was.
No worries. Did you start developing this game before 2.5 plus?
Nope. I started making this game 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. How long did it actually take to complete?
3.5 years.
Wow.
So I started like in November 2019.
Hmm. That's quite a.
And I didn't know anything. I was watching Almighty Zentaco's videos,
Yeah.
and he had a video on like wall climbing and platformer controls, and I was like, hell yeah, I can make like a Hollow Knight game. And I was totally delusional to how big of a task it actually
Yeah.
was making this game, but I just kept like pushing and
Yeah.
making the game.
That's quite a lot of dedication to stick that out for 3.5 years. That's an impressive feat. I tend to get bored after about a month and make something else then. But so
Yeah,
did
you gotta be a bit crazy, I think. Like
maybe
just look at the like. I felt like I had a vision on what I really wanted to make, and just kept doing it.
Yeah. So your level design, your rooms, have you created some sort of a level mapping system where you render them in real time, or have you laid them out by hand in frames? What's been your approach there?
It's actually the worst approach I ever could. I used it's all just like objects basically, background objects, and I was painfully placing them by hand.
Hmm.
And it's probably been like one of the most time consuming things in this project.
I can imagine.
So
The effort
yeah,
definitely paid off, though. I mean, the richness, it's just polished. I mean, it's the word really. It's very, very slick.
thanks. For the next game though, I'm making basically a sequel to this game, but it's actually a prequel, I guess.
Okay.
But for that, I'm using an external level editor to visually build the levels. I'm using LDTK, it's called,
Okay.
like a free level editor, and
Yeah,
I'm
I've used
just
that.
building like it's awesome. I'm using it just to visually build,
Yeah.
like the graphics and tiles and all that,
Sure.
and just importing them into Fusion, and that's been like really helpful.
Yeah, it can save a lot of time, and obviously, if you need to copy and paste things, it's a bit easier with that approach than having to move objects around, which might become unaligned when you repaste them and things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, what was the most challenging part of making this for you then? What was the most difficult thing you had to overcome?
I mean, since I didn't know anything about the engine, I guess just learning the engine has been the hardest part.
Hmm.
Especially since I didn't know a lot of the like really useful features. Like for maybe 2 years, I didn't know what for each loops were. I
Sure.
didn't know what fast loops were.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to like program stuff and fix like weird scoping issues
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And then some some other developers. Just I asked some people like how could I fix this problem, and they were like, why don't you just use the for each loop? And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
So I had to like learn, I guess, the basics, but it's hard when you don't know where to look.
Sure. Did you find you had to do a lot of sort of refactoring, redoing things as you found better ways to do it, or were you able to keep what you'd started with?
For some stuff, yes, and for some other stuff, I could keep it. Like it was a mix.
Hmm.
Like I didn't have to like redo the entire game or
Sure.
big systems, but yeah, for some stuff for sure. Like
Yeah. It's actually quite common to do that. Most people find they have to refactor at least once when they're developing something.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, whether you're a beginner
Even
or
if you're
20 years in, it's
yeah, exactly. Even if you're the best at something, you will you will probably not do it in the like most optimal way you
yeah.
can the first time around.
And extensions. Have you stuck with the core objects that come with Fusion, or have you used extensions to work with and make your coding easier?
At some time, I was just testing all kinds of extensions, but I think for the most part, I'm using pretty basic ones. Like for the platforming controls, I just use what's it called? The platforming
Platform movement
control.
object.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. Like I'm using the array for saving
Yeah.
and the loading. So I haven't really used anything super fancy, I think.
Sure. Well, it certainly makes it easier when you come to port onto different platforms, and to have the core objects in there. It's a lot easier to work with that onto the different platforms there. And speaking of the different platforms, you have published on Steam, and I'm just gonna, sorry, not Steam, I mean, what do I mean? Nintendo Switch, sorry, my bad. That's there. I'm just putting up the QR code
Yep.
there. Anyone watching, if you scan that QR code in the corner of the screen there, you get to the Nintendo Switch page, and at the moment I believe we've got 15% off.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. And which other platforms have you actually ported to?
I mean, I guess it's on Epic Store also,
Okay.
but I guess it will be coming at some point on PlayStation and Xbox and maybe mobile phones.
Cool.
I don't know.
Well, it'll certainly be an easy task, not having really used any exotic objects, so hopefully that'll
Yeah,
be nicer.
and it feels
smoothing.
yeah, and it feels more clean just using. At least I feel like not using too many extensions
Yeah.
and stuff.
And how do you think you would adapt the gameplay to work on mobile? And would it be tap to move, or?
I have no idea. I guess you'd have to do like a on-screen, like a overlay, like a
Sure.
button overlay,
Yeah.
or have just I don't know how. I don't really play any like mobile games, so I don't know if you can publish a game there without any screen controls.
I've
just
seen
have-
quite a red mix of things, and some people have an overlay that you can have transparent or completely hidden, and you're just touching in the different corners of the screen. I say I'm working on right now. I mean, it's been about 3 years at this point, but I'm working on a game which you control it by rotating the screen, and it's been quite an interesting challenge trying to get the rotation right so that the sort of the content of the world stays with real world gravity. It's causing me some issues because I'm not so good at the maths, but yeah, lots of fun ways to do that. So you had a ton of really cute little details and things like the vines moving around and unfurling and things in the game. What was your favourite little, just purely decorative thing that you've put into this game?
Actually, I wish I did more like decorative things,
Okay.
but I felt they were really hard to do. So I actually struggled a lot with the graphics in this game, like because it's quite a quite a high resolution pixel art game.
Yeah.
And it takes so much time to even draw the like tiniest stuff. So what was the most fun? I don't know, maybe some of the bosses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm having way more fun with the new game because it's half this resolution. So
Right.
in the new project I can actually enjoy making graphics
Yeah,
for
that's
it
quite a
because
difference.
it's not so hard as this game.
Have you used any tools such as there's AI tools out there to generate in between frames and things to make the animation easier to achieve, or have you done everything by hand?
Nope, I've done everything by hand.
Very
I
impressive.
didn't even know there are AI tools to generate frames. Maybe I should look into that.
Yeah,
But
I
I can
always forget the
save
name
some
of it, but
time.
there's a site where you can basically give it sort of every fourth frame, and it makes completely smooth animations. It's quite an impressive thing.
Interesting.
If I ever remember the link, I'll send it to you there. Yeah,
cool.
there's a lot of tools out there. Obviously, AI is quite a controversial subject these days, and people don't like it. But personally, I think we're a long way off it replacing game developers. And I think right now it can be a very useful tool to help you speed up your work and your process. But unless you've got that sort of core idea, and it's like making a website, you know, sort of with Wix or something versus paying a developer to do it for you. You know, you can still make one, but it's that sort of vision and feel for the story that AI certainly doesn't have yet. So I think
for sure. Yeah. And there is a difference when if you're like generating art based on someone else and just generating something like frames from your own art.
Yeah, definitely.
There's still like a difference.
I've actually been trying out Adobe. They've got an extend footage tool that's just come out, and I've had some funny results, but I've had some super impressive ones as well. It's like the ability to carry on.
It's pretty crazy how fast this technology has gone, like in a couple of years.
For sure, yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your next chapter, or the prequel, in fact.
It's basically like very similar to this game, except it's I guess less Hollow Knight inspired and more like Castlevania. And yeah, it's another like more retro than this, like half this resolution, like chunkier pixels, and but more pretty much kind of this. I took everything I learned from making this game, and what I couldn't do in this game because of scope and ideas and stuff like that. Like in this game, there's no towns and other other mushrooms, because it's, I guess the story is you're the like last mushroom alive, so that was like the initial idea. But I kind of regret not having any other NPCs and stuff like that, so I get to do all that stuff with the new game, like have cool little towns and everything I couldn't do with this game, basically.
Is that why you chose a prequel? So you could put more
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think so. I'm not actually sure why I chose a prequel. I guess it gives more like freedom to what you can do. Otherwise, I have to like work on top of this game.
Sure.
But if it's a prequel, it's just like, oh, this was thousands of years ago.
Right.
So you get to have some new ideas, I guess.
So scope then for maybe the next chapter after that as well, if you've got quite a long time between these timelines.
Yeah, we will see. I think after the second game, I'm going to do a smaller game, like something like a 6-month project or a 1-year project, and something that's not a platformer, I think.
Okay. With that,
just
puzzle
to
game
mix
or
it up
like
a bit. Yeah, something. I'm not sure yet, but I feel like trying something else after I've made these 2 games.
Well, I'm definitely a fan of the puzzle games, so I'll be interested to see if you do one. But how long do you think it will be before your sequel or prequel is out then? Or do you not know yet? Too long?
No, it's actually planned on coming out this fall. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
That is the plan. We will see if I can manage to finish it this year, but I think I can. I have I feel like I'm confident in my planning and how long it takes for me to do stuff, and the game is like more than half done already, so
that's impressive. And do you do this as your full-time job now, or is that still the dream?
I do it as my full-time job.
Oh wow, that's very
cool. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Best thing that's ever happened to me, I think.
That's really good to hear. So, I mean, I've asked you a lot about that. Do you have any questions for Click Team? Are there any things that you'd like to see in our tools to help you develop this sort of game?
I mean, yeah, I have some. There are some stuff like I think about when I'm making the game. When I'm working Click Team, I'm thinking like, oh, this would be nice. I'm not sure what I can think about now. I guess I would like the level editor to be maybe refined a bit.
Sure.
But I think Click Team has really good functionality. Like the event system and everything is, for me, it's perfect. Like I love it.
That's good to hear. You can come again. That's the right answer. So, what are you playing at the moment? Aside from making your game, what do you play in your spare time?
I play a lot of games actually. I think lately I've been playing Kingdom Come 2.
Okay.
But like I try to play like every Metroidvania that comes out just for like inspiration and see what others are doing in the genre.
Sure.
But yeah, I play like tons of games and I usually get inspired by the weirdest games. Like sometimes I'm playing games that you wouldn't think would give you ideas for like the game I'm making, but I usually can find something in every game that gives me some kind of new idea. Maybe it's just some enemy design or some like small mechanic in the game or something. So I like to play a lot of games and draw inspiration from multiple places.
Cool.
What are you playing?
I'm at the moment playing the new Planet Coaster.
Cool.
I love building games, theme parks
cool.
in particular, and a lot of sorting games. Actually, I'm quite addicted to Hexasort at the moment on my phone. So at some point coming up, I'm going to be doing a part tutorial thing over the streams and making a hex sorting game. So that'll be an interesting one to do going forwards. But yeah, I don't get an awful lot of time to play games, to be honest. So it's just I find ones that are on my phone that I can pick up and just play quickly.
That's
the
cool.
ones I use the most. So yeah. Right, well, we're at the end of our time there, so thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and thank you for being our first victim.
No worries.
So yeah, everyone, don't forget that there's 15% off on the Switch sale at the moment, and the
go get
QR code is in the corner there. Go play, and leave some nice reviews. Basti, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's our first interview down, and now on to the terrifying task of doing a live game creation in front of you. So I have a Plinko game we're going to work on, except I can't call it Plinko, so it's going to be Flinko, and you'll be able to get the MFA for this, and that will be in the Reactor section. Don't forget, we have a Reactor Patreon where you can subscribe and get all sorts of tutorials, sample engines, early access to various things. Check it out on Patreon. Look for the Reactor, and there's some goodies to be had there. We also got Discord, and you can see, am I pointing the right way? There, up there, QR code in the corner. If you scan that, you'll get the invite to join our Click Converse Discord server, and we have live support from various members of staff, and we've got an active moderator and user base there. So there's usually somebody on to take your questions and help you out, and hopefully you help other people as well. It's a good community, and ties in with our forums, of course. So enough delaying, and on with the game creation. So if I switch to my desktop now. So for those of you who don't know what Plinko is, it's a game where you drop a token from the top and it bounces off lots and lots of pins, and you try to get them into some traps at the bottom. On the game show version, I think it's The Price is Right in America, these things at the bottom have amounts on, and I think you win the amount of money. In our version, we're just going to light up the word Flinko. So before I actually get into it, I'm going to just show you the working game so you can see what we're working towards. Apologies if this is very noisy. So I've got a little trick in here later, you'll see, for unsticking the ball. Oh, I've knocked out a letter again there. So you have to keep going until you light up all the letters. For sanity's sake, I've put in a debug shortcut here, so I can show you what happens when you win. Although you would not believe the number of times I have failed to win playing it like that. So that's the game, nice and simple. All the assets are in this MFA, so you'll be able to either have a go or make your own one and tweak it and do some fun things with it yourself. So, right, I'm going to start with the basic frame here. I've got a few things pre-set up so that it just saves a little bit of time on the stream here. So these are active objects. They are just static, the movement on them there. They do get imported into the Fusion Physics engine. I found these ones to be the best for that. If you use static physics objects, then collisions can cause them to budge around a little bit. So these normal static active objects work very well here. I've got a few concepts that I'm going to go into during this stream here. We'll be looking at loops, and for each loops on objects, we'll be looking at layers. As you can see, we've got a bunch of layers down here on the right hand side, and we'll be looking at instant values and object behaviors as well. So I'll explain these as we go through. If you hear me shuffling around here, it's just me looking at my notes. I don't think I would remember how to do this in 30 minutes without them. So, in addition to the pin object, which is an active, we've got this active, which has been set with two different types of movements here. We've got a static, which is a normal static movement, and we've got a physics bouncing ball movement there. The bouncing ball has been set up. It took me a couple of hours tweaking to get the right feel for this. If you watch a Plinko video of the game show, the fall of the disc is very, very rapid. I haven't quite managed to replicate that, so it'd be interesting to see if anyone can find some better settings. But what I found worked pretty well was giving it a very high density so that it's got a high mass. And also I've set the gravity in the physics engine here up quite high. I think I've set 10 there. Oh no, sorry, where are we? Gravity strength 200, and 10 is equivalent to normal Earth gravity, so it's quite a strong one to make it really dash down the levels there. I also have the easing object in here, which I'll show you what that's doing a bit later. As for our frames, I've just got a couple here. There's a blue gradient quick backdrop. There's another one on top, and I've set the layer opacity there, so you can see it just provides a little bit of an extra. Oh, can't hide that when I'm on it. It provides a little bit of an extra texture to the gradient. It gives it two directions. It's a nice trick there. Layer 3 has got the bumper graphics. These are all just quick backdrops. There's no interaction between these at all. They're just decoration. These objects down here are active objects. They're up on layer 4 along with all of the letters and the pins and the disc. These ones were also, I think I set those to static movement. Again, I wanted them to not move around when things hit into them. I found initially that the disc bumping here was sending these flying off into a direction we didn't want. So yeah, I think that's it for the objects. Oh, I do have these ones down here. They're all active objects. Inside each one of these, we've got, just go up there. So I've used the directions 0 to 6 here. 0 is the out of bounds or miss, and then 1 to 6 are F, L, I, N, K, and O. And I've also got a glow object up here, which I put over the top, and again that just matches there. I've used the glow with an effect, and let's get that up. So I've used the effect here, and it is under the standard effects. It's just add, and it basically means that it adds brightness based on what's in that glowing image, which is each letter is blurred with a Gaussian blur. I think I used 2 to create a blurred image, so it brightens it up. So when you actually play it, if I can just go back to that one, you'll see when you light up a letter down there, it creates quite a realistic glow over the top. I'll show you how those are created shortly. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here are instance values. So they're a newer feature of Fusion, and they're in Fusion 2.5 standard. It's not a plus feature. What it means is traditionally you create an active object and you clone it, as I have done here. So they're all copies of the one object. But we have recently added under the values an instance value, and every single duplicate of an object on your frame can actually be given a different instance value. In the case of the pins, these ones here, you may have noticed they don't show up in the game. I hide them. They're just there to act as the bumpers on the sides. I found it quite hard to get this shape to work accurately, so I worked out just using these pins in that configuration worked well. So this one, you see I've selected one of the visible ones. Its instance value is 0. These ones at the side, I've set them all to 1. So everything in these 3 columns here and down here. And in the behavior for this object, I think I did in the behavior. Yeah. So at start of frame, I just checked to see if the instance value is 1 and then made it invisible. So it's still there, it still functions, but using that approach, you can actually do interesting things like this. And I've used the same technique down here with the letters. So this one has an instance value of 0, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and those correspond to the directions as well. So at the start of the frame, I think I did that one in behaviors as well. Behaviors, in case you're not aware, are sets of events that you can attach to an object. I find it quite useful for things which only ever happen on that object. So for example here, setting up the pins and the objects at the start of the frame. So in this one, the behavior, I've used it to change the animation direction to the instance value, so 0 being the no entry symbol, and then the 6 letters as well. I've also set a flag or 2 here and set the RGB coefficient, which allows you to change the brightness of an object or recolor it. So in this case, it's setting it from 0 being dark to 255 being bright. So I've set it 100, 100, 100, and that makes the letters go dark at the start. Later on, I set them up to a higher value, 255, 255, 255, and that makes them bright. So that's just a few of those things. I think I did a few setup things here as well. The ball, I have some behaviors on this one. Oh, no, I took them out. I have some behaviors on the glow object. In this case, I have when I light up a letter, I create a glow object on top of it. So all of the time that that object exists, it's running these events for each object individually, each glow. So this particular one, I have direction of animation 0 and 1, and 0 makes the letter glow get darker, and 1 makes it get brighter, so it pulses on and off. So if you see that running, it's got, you'll notice down here, oops, there where the L is, there's a glowing effect there, and as soon as that object gets destroyed, the behaviors are gone as well, so they don't run anymore. A lot of people don't use them. I find them quite useful in my coding. I think it's quite a nice way to approach these things. So I'm now going to go into the events. I won't use that one. I shall use the one with nothing in. So I've set a few things at the start of frame here. I just left those in. Bring the disk to the front. Because I'm creating glows quite often over the letters, they get created and end up above the disk, and you want the disk to be in front of them. So you'll see me bringing the disk to the front repeatedly. Here, in 2 global values, one called light on and one called light off, RGB, I'm using get RGB, which is an expression to turn a red, green, blue value into a single number that Fusion can use. And you'll see for on, I've got white, and for off, I've got 100, 100, 100, which is sort of a darker grey colour. I realise I actually just replicated that in the behaviour there, but yeah, I obviously forgot to change that one back when I decided to put it up here. Doing it here also means that you can change it and then it globally affects everything everywhere, which is quite a nice way to work. And storing the position of the disk here, I do that so that we can reset the token back to where it started after a turn has happened. That's it for the starter frame. I deactivate the group afterwards just because those don't need to run any longer. So the next one I'm going to do is group. So we're going to do a drop. Oops, wrong caps. I cannot type anymore. Bear with me. So with this, we're going to look for the initial state and move the disk along with the mouse, and then when the user clicks, it will send the thing on its way. So the first thing we're going to look for, I've got a series of, let me just open these up, bear with me. So on the Flinko disk, because there's only one of these and it's always there, never gets destroyed, I've stored values in here. So I've got 4 different modes during this, things that the game does. So drop mode, bucket mode when it's down at the bottom over a letter, reset mode when it's resetting the disk back up to the top, and then win mode when you actually light up all 6 letters. So I use these flags to indicate what state that the game is actually in at any one time. And you'll see I've also got a flag for each of the letters for Flinko, and I light those up and then I activate the flag, and I can add all of the flags together. So an on flag equals a 1. So if you add them all together and you've got the first 5, for example, you'll get 5 out. So it's a way to test if all of them have been lit up. I've got a few bits here which I'll talk about a little later on. So first thing we're going to do is check to see if the drop mode is actually off, because we don't want anything to be happening whilst any of those 4 modes are active in terms of the user moving the disk and then triggering a drop, because you'd then be able to affect the ball whilst it's already in play. Also going to add duplicate those and check each of the other ones. So bucket mode is off, reset mode is off, win mode is off, and I'm also going to, oh no, that's all those. Sorry, I'm referring to my notes here. So the first thing I'm going to do is change a global value here. When I make an app, I always set up a few global values like temp A, B, C, and D, I find that a really useful technique. It lets you have some values that are always there if you just need to store something within an event line itself or within a loop, and then you don't use it. You like rely on it for a next action. You treat it as a single use variable, and it saves you having to create tons and tons of variables for each thing that you need to actually store when they're only temporary and don't need to be kept. Oh, so sorry, I've gone down in a screen size here for the stream so that it was a lower resolution, and everything's extra big. So I'm going to use temp A here, and I'm going to get the width of the disk, which I keep forgetting where that is, width, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. The reason I'm doing that is so that I can store the width and use it as a buffer at either side to stop the disk going too far. So I'm going to then use another another action, and I'm going to set the position of the disk object, and I want to set this to no less than 2 times the width of the disk object on the left and on the right. So I'm going to do that using min and max. I don't know if everyone's used these functions, but they're very helpful. Min, you give it 2 values and it picks the lower of the 2, and max, obviously the higher of the 2. So in this case, for the left side, I'm going to pick the max, and I'm going to say X mouse, which is the position of the mouse on the x-axis, and I'm also going to use temp A from up there where I stored the width. Now what that means is that if the mouse goes below 2 times the width of the disk, it will pick 2 times the width of the disk, temp A, instead of the actual X mouse. So that would, if I run that now, you will see it locks it there. So at this point here, it's hitting that max threshold there that we've got with the twice the width of the disk. Not on this side yet, so I'll just do that as well. To do that, I'm going to wrap this one that I've already done in a min statement. So I'm going to take the minimum of, so that's the X mouse position there, or this one, and then I'm going to also say temp A here. Sorry, I'm going to say frame width minus temp A. We didn't need the frame width, obviously, because the left starts at 0 coordinates wise. So we're saying we want the minimum of X mouse, which is coming from this part, and the frame width minus 2 times the width of the object, which is stored there. So if X mouse from this part ends up going too far to the right, it then reverts to the temp A value minus from the frame width. And you can see now it's locking at both sides there. So our next one is to detect the actual drop sequence. So we're going to do user clicks the mouse, left button, and we're also going to check that all of these flags are off again, because we only want it to happen when there is nothing else going on in the game already. So that's those 4. And what I'm going to do is set one of these flags now. So I'm going to say that drop mode is on, so this will initiate the dropping. And I'm also going to change the disk object to the bouncing ball. If you remember, I had multiple movements set in there. It starts out on static. Now, because it's going to start falling, we want it to work with the ball physics object. So that starts a drop. So if I press that, obviously it falls straight off the screen because there's nothing else to stop it there. So we're going to deal with, I'm going to put in a group here for dealing with a stuck disk. but we'll come back to that one in a little bit, and then we're going to work first on collisions. So the first thing we're going to detect is a collision between the disk and between another object. I've set up a qualifier here. I chose obstacles. Qualifiers, if you don't know what they are under the tab here, events. You can choose qualifiers for an object, not the disk, because that's not an obstacle. There we go. So you can choose qualifiers. There's a whole range to choose from, lots of different ones, and then just blank numbers. Whatever you pick, they are just an icon and an identifier. They don't have any meaning beyond that, really. So obstacles allow you to, qualifiers allow you to add a qualifier or multiple qualifiers to some different objects so that you can work on them together. In this case, I've added it to the pin, as you saw there, and the bucket wall. You can see I've also added it there. So it allows me, instead of doing a test for the disk and the pin and also the disk and the bucket wall, it allows me to do a test just on the qualifier there, which is really helpful. Saves a lot of time. And I have a few tests in here because when you hit a pin, because the disk is falling so fast, it hits a lot of different pins multiple times, and the sound is quite loud and it's not ideal for the game. So I'm going to put some tests in here afterwards which will determine whether it's hit the last few pegs already. You'll see what I mean when I get to that. Our tests for those, so I'll put those in, and we are last peg. So we're looking to see if the last peg hit number 1, 2 and 3. We've got those 3 values, and in each of those we're going to store the fixed number of the peg that the disk hit, and that allows us to do a comparison and make sure that it's not bumping too many times and making too many sounds. So we're going to make a comparison here to the fixed value of the obstacle. So a fixed value is a unique value that every object in Fusion has. They never cross over, they're always different. So this value will always refer to a pin or one of the bucket things down at the bottom there. It allows you to call back those objects at a later time. It allows you to test against it. So in this case, we're saying if the last peg hit value is different to the current fixed number of the obstacle we've just hit, and I'm going to duplicate that twice and change it to those other few values. So that's testing to say, has that actually hit these pegs already? If not, it's going to make a sound. I've got 4 sounds, so I'm going to use my temp A value in the globals, and I'm going to choose a random range, R random, between 1 and 4, stored in that, and I'm also going to then start a loop. Now, loops are special events that let you repeat lots of actions very quickly. It lets you process something like playing one of the 4 sounds in this case, and lets you do lots of other cool things. So you'll see more as I go on. In this case, I'm doing play click as the name of the loop, and I'm going to start that 1 time. So I've set that to a random number between 1 and 4. I'm going to start a loop called play click. I'm running up against the time for our next interview here, so I might carry this on later in the segment that was going to be the array deep dive. But I'll just finish this one bit first here. So on loop play click, and I'm doing a test to see a couple of things. So I'm doing a test of that global value temp A, and I'm saying if it's equal to 1, make sure that you put the red events, if they go red, back up to the top so that they happen instantly. If it's down there as a red event, that won't necessarily fire as soon as it happens. Okay, so if it equals 1, then I'm going to play, and I've got 4 click sounds, so click 1, and I'm going to copy that 3 times, change those tests accordingly to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then play click 2, click 3, and click 4. Now that means that we've got random number playing 1 of 4 samples, and this loop is allowing you to process that and run it immediately in one go. It's like calling a function if you know traditional programming. We don't actually have anything yet to test the collision between the ball and an object to make it bounce. I'm going to do that in a separate event just up here. So I'm going to do a collision between the disc. Sorry if I keep calling it a ball. It looks like a ball to me. Disc and our qualifier group obstacles. And I'm going to use that to do movement and bounce. And that will allow us to have the disc bounce as it goes down the pins. So hopefully, now that's got stuck because I haven't put in anything yet to catch that. As you can see, it falls now and it makes different clicking noises. So I'm just going to pause that there, and we're going to do a little bit of Spectre gameplay. Do I mean Spectre? Apologies. Gunlocked, even. Spectre is a release that's coming up we'll talk about later. So I'm actually playing this here for the first time in front of you. I've not played this one before. It's an interesting concept where you just keep moving basically. So deploy. I'm going to do tutorial, I think. I have read the preamble. Basically, you get various power-ups. Your ship has scanners and tools which scope out enemies, and in theory it fires at them for you. So let's see how that works. Oh, okay. You have to basically avoid everything, apart from when you destroy an enemy. I told you I'm not very good at this. Graduated from combat training. Found some gems in the debris. Cool. Okay. Oh, that's a nice touch, giving you a countdown when you've had a dialogue screen come up so you don't just get rammed back into enemies. Yeah. Ah, okay. That was a gem. I guess, oops, there's some sort of a recharge time on the weapon then. Nope. You'll hear me say this repeatedly, I'm not amazing at games. Building stuff, yeah, that's my thing, but my coordination is somewhat lacking. I guess you can't destroy asteroids, just mines and things. Oh. An electromagnetic pulse trap destroys and trigger a delayed pulse, saving energy. Okay. Sounds, oh, I guess that's that up there. Cool. I really like the graphics. It's got a lot of retro elements from quite a few games I used to play when I was a kid. Back when you had very, very, very basic computers and consoles that like 5 games. Follow the mouse movement. It's actually a bit better for my brain, the way that work. As you move around, kinetic armor charges up. Full charge, you gain armor that blocks next damage you take and gives you half a second of vulnerability. Not charge if the armor is currently active. Cool. Send that over to you to help nuggets better choices. So I'm a nugget, am I? Okay. Okay. So do I have to select these here? Oh no, it's there. Okay, yeah, this is easier with the mouse. Pretty cool game. I really like the concept of not having to actually shoot. It's quite an interesting challenge trying to get the automatic weapon to scan and recharge and leave you actually protected. It's not mechanical. Maybe somewhere else, but yeah, it's a very cool feature. Upgrade. Ooh. We've managed to deploy a high-speed upgrade transmission beacon to your location. Move over it and download the data to upgrade a piece of equipment on your ship. Cool. Oops. No. So my shield charges 15% faster now. Cool. Use those to transport their most powerful experimental items. The swarm are this enemy onslaught that I'm being attacked by here. Ships designed to interface them, at least temporarily. So how about you go over and ask her to dance? Okay. target in the area. Lock on weapons that cannot target asteroids. Burn effects deal 24 damage in over 1.5 seconds. 3 burn effects can stack. Okay. Oh, I see. So I've got an extra target. Thing up there so I can scan and also target objects. Like I should have died by now. Maybe you don't die. No, I've got low shield. Okay. Mission complete. Well, that's very cool. I really like that. It's a very interesting game, and love the retro graphics and the mechanics. I'm going to play some more and find out what else it actually adds there. I'm really enjoying the extra features there. It adds a kind of puzzle game strategy aspect to a simple keep moving game, which is quite a novel approach. I like that. Very cool. So I'm going to head over back to our Reactor Control Room here, and now we have coming up a Switch sale. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. I'm going to play you a little sting video here for the Switch sale. We've got several games in there. Lone Fungus. We've got 15% off that. We have Gunlocked. I just played, 30% off, and all with 50% off. In Existence Rebirth, Space Avenger, Splotches, and we'll be interviewing the Splotches team in a short while. Xenogunner, Endless Memories, Quaddle, I think. I've been having trouble with the pronunciation of that. 50% off those last few, so take a look at this quick trail. So, we're just going to get the Splotches team online hopefully here. Bear with me a moment. Who have we got in here? Clayton is in already. Can you hear me, Clayton? No, we're just waiting for them to come on. Just while they're coming on, I'll just carry on a little bit. Oh, you there, Clayton? Ah, Jacob, hey. Good, thank you. How are you? Cool. Who's doing the stream then? It's coming from you there. Right, I'm just switching over. So this is a live gameplay and interview of Splotches here. I'm just going to bring up a QR code here on the screen. If you scan that, that should take you to the Nintendo Switch store where you can get it. As I said, on sale at the moment at 50% off. So, thank you very much, both of you. We've got Clayton and Jacob. Did your brother join us in the end?
Oh, you're talking to Clayton. I think he was having trouble getting on.
Oh, okay. I see him there. Maybe he'll come in a second there. So, you worked on the graphics primarily, yes?
Clayton worked on the graphics. I did a lot of the eventing and the programming.
Sorry, I've written you down the wrong way round. Do apologise.
It's all good. It's all good.
So, it's my favourite type of game. I love puzzle games, and I must admit I spent far too long earlier this week playing this one. Yeah, really, really cool game. Some quite complicated mechanisms in there, I think. Drawing a line is actually quite a hard thing to do, and getting it to solidly track in a lot of scenarios. So I'll be interested to hear about that a bit later. But first, what was the inspiration for the game? Did you have similar games you played, or was this just your own creation?
Can you all hear me?
Yep. I hear
Clayton?
you.
Sorry. Hi, nice to meet you. I just
Hey,
now
Thank
got
you
my
for
mic
joining
working.
us.
Yeah. So the inspiration, this was good grief, this was some time ago. It was on the Daily Click. We were having a compo. I believe it was called the Turi,
Right.
because of the lack of an N. And I think the original prototype we made in I think it was like a week-long run. So
Mhm.
it's very, very obviously much smaller than this. I was sitting there and I was working in, I think I started it in the Games Factory, and I was working in a little pixel editor, and the easiest thing that I knew how to draw was pixel art blobs, literally circles. And so I think Web 2.0 was super popular right then or soon thereafter, and I was learning how to do shiny things. And so I just made circles and then made them duplicate when you clicked, and it kind of just grew from there.
Mhm.
And I think I was learning, I was kind of learning grid locking based on division and then multiplication. So it's kind of just what I had been learning how to do procedurally in Fusion, and kind of putting it all together. And then it eventually grew into this.
Cool. So this has got quite a long heritage back from, did you say Game Creator?
Yeah, it was the Games Factory. So,
Games Factory, right.
you know, yeah, probably half my life ago, actually. I think I was probably around 16 when I first made it, and I'm
Wow.
30, just turned 33. So
That's pretty cool. That's a long development period.
it is. Yep. For Jacob too. Spare time devs, and we were a little bit perfectionistic. So I think actually this is the third iteration of the game, technically.
Yep. The third iteration.
So is it the third released one, or is it the third refactor or second refactor?
Second refactor. So the first version was the little compo game,
Right.
and then I did most of the initial version that was in the Humble Bundle,
Yeah.
and I had Jacob helping me with the level editor stuff, and then we both decided through, I don't know, some moment of insanity maybe that we're like, you know what? Let's just redo the whole thing and make it super polished and shiny and release it on iPad, and then we're subject to that forever.
So which platforms have you actually ported this to then?
Well, it's PC. It's on iOS. It is on Nintendo Switch,
Mhm.
and I believe very soon we will be having it on Android.
I tried to prepare some fireworks to do your release live, but unfortunately the graphic kept glitching up really badly. So we'll have to do like a little human fanfare noise instead.
I can do a Foley for it if we need to.
Nice. So, what did you enjoy most about making this game?
Um, I think probably, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to make video games, and I think seeing sort of that investment of time and energy, see that turn into something that felt polished and like a real game, and eventually on the Nintendo Switch, which was always our dream. Always my dream. I always wanted to make Nintendo games.
Hmm.
Just sort of the satisfaction of that effort becoming a thing. Um, it took a lot of dedication, and whenever if I got a new piece of music from Johan, it was always like Christmas. And then I was working with Christian Rabe for some of the graphics early on, and whenever something new came in, it was always really exciting.
Hmm.
I think it's a puzzle game, and you would hope that designing the puzzles would be fun, but I think we were all so sick of designing puzzles by the end that that wasn't the highlight, I would say, but overall it was quite satisfying. Jacob, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always about the technical aspects of things and pushing Click Team Fusion to its limits. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun building the editor. So this game has an editor. We did a lot of polishing. We like things to be a little kind of bouncy and things like that.
Hmm.
So all of these menus, we had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and really kind of making it feel good to play on iPad and actually the same with the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure I don't know if you were involved, Simon, or not, but
Not on
we
that one, no.
yeah, we tweaked a lot of like the vibrations to make it feel good. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm you know I'm all about the technical side of things, and I had a lot of fun, you know, using Fusion to do this. Just because as others have said, you know, you can just iterate on things very quickly.
Hmm.
And I, you know, I develop software full time as my day job, but I love coming back to Fusion, you know, to build stuff just because of how quickly you can put something together. You don't have to deal with all the technical stuff, especially when you're doing multi-platform
Yeah.
software. So yeah, I guess the technical side and like Clayton said, seeing everything come together and feel very polished. We had a blast. We had a lot of fun doing it. It's kind of like a hobby for me, and so I really enjoyed it.
That's cool. And I was saying earlier with Basti in the first interview that I learned actually at the age of 2. I wrote my first computer program, astonishingly, but um, yeah, it was always learning the write your code, get your engine right, and then make it look pretty. But Fusion gives you the luxury of doing it the other way round, so you can, bring your idea visually to life and then hook it up and make it do stuff. And is that something you found very useful in this development process?
Oh yeah. You know, a lot of times what we would do is just start a new project and kind of prototype things. And yeah, building this, all the little pieces that came together, we would prototype first, get it feeling good, and then you know, go ahead and just copy it into the project and make it part of the game.
Yeah.
So it was very nice to be able to quickly iterate and kind of see our ideas come to life very quickly, uh, and just very satisfying, you know. And also I could just drop it on the iPad and bring it to school at the time, or bring it to some friends and
Yeah.
say, hey, you know, give this a try. So yeah.
Cool.
I think we had a long-standing frame at the very end of the project where we prototyped things, and then once we were happy with it, we made them global and then popped them over.
Right. And did the level editor or map editor, whatever you want to call it, did that come first, or was that something you sort of got to the point, you know what, we need this tool and brought it in later on?
That was I guess in the overall scheme of things, it was later on. But with the second refactoring where we just really wanted to do it really well,
Yeah.
it was kind of baked in from the beginning. So we had a first version of the editor that actually was pretty cute in the other version of the game that was tacked on afterward. And then with the remake, it was like, well, just from the get-go. Like when we updated, we actually changed the mechanics of the game for the second refactor, and we had to update all of the puzzles and tweak some of them in order to make it work with the new system. And we
Okay.
just everything in the new editor, directly in the game's editor, for the new puzzles and for redoing the older puzzles.
Right. I'm anyone who knows me, attest I'm obsessed with making level editors. I have all these amazing ideas for games and then make the editor bit for it, and then by the time I'm done with that, I usually get distracted and start on something else. But yeah, it's certainly something that's cool for games like this to be able to quickly draw up puzzles. And um, was it Clayton? Was it your brother who did some of your puzzles for you?
Yeah, we had a few people come in on that. I think Jacob and Taylor and I think Logan too, maybe. Jacob, was it
Yep.
Logan?
Yep. Logan did some.
His brother Logan. We all kind of banded together and made it seemed like we were always making more. Like I remember having to buy some pizza. Like, all right, we're gonna power through the next batch.
That's very cool. And have you is that something that users can do, make their own puzzles, or is that so far a dev tool for you guys?
Oh, absolutely. It's right on the front page. I believe it's the hammer and it should say make.
Cool.
So you can make your own. I actually, on our website, there is a place where you can upload the puzzles that you make and download others, but I haven't promoted it very much. So
You just did.
Yeah.
how about that?
Cool. I'll if you send us some links over afterwards to these things, we can get them up so that people can take a more of a look at these. And yeah, so I will be asking everyone a lot of the same questions, but What was the most challenging thing about making this game?
Jacob, you go first.
Okay, sure. Well, with this version of the game, it was really intended to be mobile first. So, the previous version was designed for PC. And at the time, I think when we started looking at this, iPad 2 might have been the iPad, or maybe it was iPad 3. I don't
Right.
know. There's been so many versions. And performance was a big concern. So, we did a lot of workarounds, and I think those workarounds are still in place to kind of get the performance up. And I can go into all the technical details, but like some of the things we did was to use an array to handle collisions and everything. Which when I'm using Click Team products, I like to kind of use the built-in stuff as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, we ended up having to build our own, collision. But this is a grid-based game, so that wasn't a big deal.
Sure.
But just for performance reasons, at the time, now I'm pretty sure it would run just fine. But at the time, that's kind of a decision we had to make. And then some of the animations, like the larger things, like the large explosions, when they'd first show up on screen, there would be a little bit of a frame rate dip. So one of the hacks we kind of did is we actually play that animation before each level loads,
Right.
but as a invisible sprite on the screen, and that preloads all the frames. And then when we play the animation, there's no frame dip. That was only on older devices.
Sure.
And so that was kind of some of the stuff we had to do. So yeah, I would say that was a little challenging, and at times we thought, maybe we can't make it exactly the way we want to, but now, performance isn't an issue with how advanced, mobile hardware is now.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
remember I had an old ThinkPad, and ThinkPads are not known as very beefy machines.
no.
And it had Linux installed on it, and I was like, you know what? At this point, Splotches was already released, and it was out on Steam. And I was like, I'm going to see what this Vulkan situation is about. Or I think it was called Vulkan, the thing that basically emulates Windows games
Yeah.
on Linux. And it was an old ThinkPad, and it ran butter smooth. I was like, my, how things have changed from when the iOS runtime was brand new, and
Yeah.
those iPads had more beef than a ThinkPad, the old ThinkPad did. But it was really nice to see that work so well.
Yeah.
I remember we had, so there's an item in the game. I can't remember if we named it anything. It's a bomb, basically. It's a little brown bomb, and when you hit it with a brown explosion, it itself explodes, and you can do chain reactions. And I remember we were stress testing the iPad by going into the level editor and then making every single grid square a bomb,
Right.
and then exploding it, and it just tanked immediately. I remember. I don't. Do you remember, Jacob? How did we ever eventually solve that? I think we were. Was it the loop that was causing an issue with, like, if we just
Well,
had
I
to
think originally we had the bombs explode very quickly. So if the explosion hit the bomb, it would explode like almost right after, so it would create like a chain reaction, and it looked cool, but it tanked the performance. So that's when we added a fuse, which personally I think makes the game better anyway, because it gives you time to kind of see what's going to happen. I think if things had exploded instantly, you might kind of get confused as to what's happening. I don't know if you guys are watching the stream,
Yeah.
but I'm putting some bombs here. So yeah, what we did to solve that issue is we just made them blow up one at a time and then have a fuse. So instead of going boom, 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 and tanking the frame rate, we do it gradually. So like this.
There was a lot
Um,
that I learned about game design from this project, and then a couple others that were around it. But kind of that telegraphing to your player what's happening was that's kind of what we learned with that.
Mm-hmm.
And in our first iteration with the tutorial, we learned that people don't really want to read text.
No.
So like in having its three iterations, it's kind of two iterations because the first one was a teeny tiny little compo game, but in having those three iterations, it was kind of like our, or at least I felt like my sense of game design grow. And even at this point, hopefully I've gotten a little further even. But I remember learning from taking this to shows and having people play, and figuring out what they didn't notice on the screen, and really feeling like there was really stressing feedback, visual feedback in the design.
Mm. It's actually I was quite impressed by how you've done this. I studied as part of my university course human computer interaction, and back then mobile games weren't such a big thing. It was still, I think I had an Ericsson flip phone and it just about had a little card game or Snake or something on it. But getting that level of interaction back to the user, one that makes them want to keep playing, very, very big, as you said, expressive graphics that tell someone what's going on. It's a hard thing to do right, and it's very, very important. And that's a real tip I would give to anyone wanting to develop a game is look at games like yours and look at how you've done it, because the feedback to the user is really, really good on this. It really impressed me.
Appreciate that. I think that might be what I cite as the hardest. I mean, I already answered, but like the hardest thing was like getting it to the level of polish. I think I can't remember. I feel bad. I can't remember who I'm quoting, but somebody talked about how there's like a second to 90% of making a game. So you have the first 90% of making a game, and then the polish phase where it really like the little bitty bits that make it feel like it's really come together are like another 90% of game development. It feels like, even though there should only be 10 left, it's like another whole sprint, and not even a sprint, more like a marathon. And so yeah, it's like it's those little bits that take it to like Nintendo style polish, and those can, you know, you could sit there and do that for literally years, like we technically did.
Yeah. And Fusion Wise itself, is there anything you felt it could have done better for you? Any features you'd like to see, or did it do everything you need?
Yeah, I guess I would be good to ask that. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think, like I said, in the early days of working on this with, kind of trying to figure out the performance issues, I wish we could have had Fusion preload, sprites and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know there's load on call and other flags you can set, but those didn't seem to make any kind of difference. So at the time, that would have been nice to have. I think now it's probably doesn't matter anymore, like I said, because performance is not as big of an issue anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, that was kind of where we were, and that kind of that would have been nice to have.
Sure.
But
I felt like, I mean, Jacob was definitely deeper in the weeds on this version of the game, way deeper. And but I felt like when I was making the game, it like the first version especially, that it like Fusion was exactly what it needed to be for this. The only thing I wish now is that I've since in my software development career become such a stickler for source control. So I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm committing binaries to the Git repo. Oh, I want, but like that's like a silly nerdy thing, not an accessibility thing with the engine at all, or functionality thing. So
Yeah.
I think it made it like it was just the right amount of I like approachable, but also, we like it's now a Nintendo Switch game. It's approachable and you can release big full games on it with it. And I
Yeah.
thought that was handy. Optimized for what it needs to be optimized for the most part.
As full version control, obviously Fusion 3 is going to be a bit of a different ball game, and probably do more of what you're wanting there. But yeah, that's a topic for another day anyway.
Yeah,
On
I
which
was
note, in case people haven't seen it, we've now had the second episode of our new Fusion blog, looking at Fusion 3 developments, and you can read that on the Reactor. So check out the Click Team Reactor on Patreon if you have not. So was this a one and done, or well, 3 times and done, or do you have more projects, new game ideas? Are you going to work on anything else?
Well, we should definitely talk about Rodent Rush, Jacob, because that's another game that we made together. For me, yeah, I still make games. The awkward thing is that I'm not currently making things in Fusion. I still prototype in Fusion, but depending on who I'm working with, people have different tooling. But we
Sure.
definitely Rodent Rush was another game that we worked on. I only realized very, very recently. You look at Splotches and you think, wow, this is clearly a puzzle game. But I only really recently realized that this game is a Sokoban, which
Hmm.
is like, you move things in the right order in
Yeah.
order to solve a puzzle. It's a little bit more free reign than most Sokobans, but Jacob and I also made Rodent Rush. This was probably right at the beginning of the mobile boom. I think actually the first version was on BlackBerry,
Hmm.
and and it's like a tried and true Sokoban. You look at it and you know exactly, well, this is a Sokoban.
Sure.
And then I realized that we both made Sokobans. So I have a natural affinity for puzzle games, and I've been trying to I'm trying to try other genres, even though these are the ones that naturally occur to me. And I have made a few other games and released them under the Jolly Crouton label. We've got Match Point, and we have Franchise Wars, and we have Zooblies. And so they're all like we're still making games. It's still a spare time affair because making games is hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never intend to stop making games.
Glad to hear it.
Yep, yep, same here. You know, I have another fusion game I'm working on. It's something I made a while ago, but it's just like a breakout clone. So I have that, and then obviously Rodent Rush, as Clayton mentioned, and that's available on iPhone. The original version was made in Fusion and published on BlackBerry, and it actually hit #1 on the BlackBerry App World years ago. And so I took that success and brought it over to iPhone. And that game still, to this day, I get, I don't know, hundreds of downloads a week
Wow.
probably. And I have in-app purchases on there, and people buy those constantly, surprisingly. I The game was intended to be sold, and it started out that way, and I had put some in-app purchases that I thought, nobody's going to buy these, but they do, and they buy them every day. I think I sell at least one every day, but usually more.
Wow.
And it's level solutions, so that works out really well. And the game is free, so you know I suggest people download that. And Splotches is also free on iPhone up until a point, and then you have to pay, of course.
Sure.
But I think a bulk of it is available for free, so you can you know, try it out, and then you know, if you like it, throw us some spare change.
And
And
for the
that Rodent
BlackBerry,
Rush,
was that released under the J2RE? Was it runtime?
Uh, Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Was the BlackBerry release done under the mobile Java runtime they
Yes,
did? It's now deprecated, but
yes,
wow.
it
Okay.
was. It was really, yep. And I actually really liked that runtime. One extension that it had was a bitmap font
That was
extension. I
great,
don't know
wasn't
if
it?
you remember. Yes, it was great, and it looked great on Java devices, not just BlackBerry. I
Yeah.
mean, I wrote games for other mobile devices as well, other you know Java mobile devices, and the performance was good.
Hmm.
And yeah, I even made games for the BlackBerry Storm, which was the touch version of the BlackBerry, and
Hmm.
that ran just as well. So yeah, I really liked that runtime. I guess it was prior to the iPhone runtime, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, didn't get a lot of attention, but it certainly was a powerful thing at the time. It was quite ahead of its time, and a lot of the history of our product line and things like Vitalize came out and was way more powerful than Flash ever was back in the early days. And yeah, it's some interesting history there if anyone wants to read about it. I think we've got quite a bit up on the Wikipedia page for Click Team about those various things, and also the Click Wiki details a lot of that. It's an interesting thing to look at.
I also don't know. I don't know if I hope you guys don't mind, but there's a website called Clicktopia that Josh Tech runs that
Yeah,
actually I think allows some retroactive, like you can still play Vitalized games, and I mean it's in a dedicated window, but
sure.
he's doing a great job of archiving a lot of those old classics that we enjoyed.
Yeah, it's a cool site. I think we've got links to that in the community forum under the useful links and fun things to do section. So check that out. Yeah, I mean, do you have any questions for Click Team? Dangerous one to ask, I know, but anything that.
Oh, you shouldn't have opened that one up. Will you put us on the Fusion 3 demo beta tester list?
I'm sure we can manage something like that. Yes.
I'm super looking forward to JSON. I mean, if that's still in the cards, I think that'll be super fun.
There's going to be a lot of very cool stuff. I've lost track of what I'm actually allowed to sort of talk about or not at the moment, so I'm not going to say too much
Yeah.
there. But yeah, there's
I
going to be
gotcha.
some cool stuff that will excite you.
As far as I mean, if the only other question would be like, what else can we work on together? And that's that doesn't have to be a here thing. Just it's always I've been a fan forever. I think I was thinking the other day, I remember an old website. I think it had a race car at the top. So that's my earliest memories of ClickTeam, and then all my game dev stuff started from there. So I'm always keen to collaborate and make more cool stuff together.
Did you ever make it over to one of our conventions that we held in the UK?
No, I didn't. At the time, I would have been probably too young and or not able to afford a plane ticket.
No, fair enough. I don't know if we've got any on the cards, perhaps something around the Fusion 3 launch when that happens. We'll do, I don't know. I have to speak to the team about that. But there was certainly a lot of fun, and it was a good way to meet up with some of the community and see some of the stuff that went on. The very first one I went to, someone just randomly contacted me off the forum, said, "We've got a spare ticket, would you like to come?" And I didn't really have any projects that were games, and at the time I'd actually written an entire box office system for a theatre in Fusion, and it dealt with commercial ticket printers, fingerprint scanners, barcode scanning, and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, young me, I think I was 17 or something, and terrified, and I got up there to this demo in front of all the Click Team staff, and yeah, it was a fun experience, but I think they were just impressed I'd managed to get a fingerprint scanner working in the ActiveX object under Fusion, because ActiveX doesn't always play nicely with any programming environment, to be honest. It's a tricky one. Yeah, so maybe in the future we'll have some.
I would love to do that. I'd love to meet a lot of the old faces that I used to know. It reminds me, when I was in, let's see, I don't know how you would translate it, but when I was in 5th grade, so I was 10 years old, I used Fusion to make a typing tester software for my infotech class, and I think that may have been the #1 reason why I was shunned in that in that class, for making a software that would keep track of how often they pressed backspace and delete without them knowing. So a little bit of a teacher's pet in that situation, I think, and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just making something cool.
That's a cool story. I was never allowed to use Fusion history projects, any of them. And my brain has lost all the names of the projects. Click and Create, Click and Play, and Games Factory, and I tried to get all of them into my school, and they had I don't know if you would have seen the computers over there. They're called Acorn, and they ran their own operating system. It's what eventually turned into ARM. So all of the ARM processors came from that lineage, but they would never run any of the ClickTeam software on it. So I was never able to do all that kind of fun stuff at school, unfortunately.
Oh, well, we'll just have to make up for it now.
Yeah. So we're nearly at the end. Are we going to do a live Android release, or are you not quite ready for that yet?
Oh, I think that would be fantastic. I'll have to put on my best fanfare pipes. I have no idea. I need a toilet paper tube for a doo-doo-doo.
I don't have anything. I should have pre-think. I looked for fireworks, but yeah, it just kept making the screen tear up for some reason. The stream kept crashing. So yeah. So is that live now? I can hear something.
I think Chris maybe said not able to, I think.
Oh. Soon anyway, if not right now.
Yeah, we'll do it ASAP.
Cool.
And then I'll record a nice fanfare that you can play afterward.
Thank you. Well, thank you both very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully at some point in the future we'll see something else you've made and come on show us all that.
We'll look forward to it. Thanks so much for having us on.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cool. So that was Jacob and Clayton from Splotches team there. Very cool game. Definitely check it out. And I'm just going to run the Switch sale video again so you can see. And 50% off Splotches. So, just before I carry on with the Flinko game there, I'm going to show you the new video for Spectre, which has just released, and it's out on Switch as well. So here we go. So that was the Spectre release video there. Very cool looking game. Definitely go and check it out on the Switch store. Make sure you post some nice reviews and help boost one of our great talented creators. Okay, I'm going to carry on with the Flinko game now. I was going to be doing a deep dive, as I said, into the array object, but unfortunately my prep material just started misbehaving shortly before we went on air. So I will cover that again in another topic. It's a very, very useful object that a lot of people find hard to use. So in a future stream, we'll also be taking questions before the stream, programming advice, how to do various things, how to solve a problem, and I'll be answering them live on the stream. And we'll be picking up some forms for that. We'll post in the forums and on our social medias, and also in our Discord. And don't forget to sign up for our Discord server there. Link up in the top there if you want to scan it. And also follow us on socials, Twitch, YouTube, X, Facebook, and TikTok. I think that's all of them we do. We're streaming live to all of those places now as well, so there should be a copy of this stream if you want to refer back to it at all. Right, so back to Flinko. So we had got as far as adding in a collision to make the disc bounce there. And next thing I'm going to do is add in, so I've got a little animation that I made in the peg object. Excuse me, and it's just a flash and it makes the pin light up when you bounce off of it. It just adds a nice feature. I did initially put a Fusion logo spinning and growing out of it, but I was worried it might cause seizures. It was a bit flashy. So we're going to add that one in here, and I'm going to use the same loop that we did for playing the sound here, to play that flash on the object. So on the play click loop, now we need to select the same pin that we collided with. So in here where are we? I do apologise, I've missed a step here. So I'm also going to, in temp B, I'm going to store the fixed value of the object that was collided with, which is, if you remember, our qualifier obstacle here. So I'm going to retrieve the fixed value. Again, the fixed value is the unique number that every object in Fusion, be it an active or an edit box, they all have one, and you can use it to refer to those objects and link objects together, do cool stuff like that. Storing it again in the global value temp B. So here I'm going to use that and add in another condition, and I'm going to say on the pin object, not the qualifier, because I only want to do this on pins where the animation is. So I'm going to compare the fixed value to and temp B. Again, it's gone red here because that's an instant condition, so you want to put that back up to the top so that it will fire when it happens. I'm selecting the fixed value stored in temp B, it may have hit one of the bucket wall objects, in which case this won't actually select one of those, so it just ignores that basically. If I'd selected based on the qualifier here, it would have selected everything and it would have tried to animate it. I'm just going to change the animation and set it to flash. So now when it blinks, you'll see they light up. So next we need to look at monitoring the disk as it falls. So the end goal of the disk falling is for it to hit one of the letters down at the bottom. So we're going to do a test, and we're going to say, does the disk position test, and leave the bottom of the frame. So we also want to make sure that the drop mode, which we set on here above to indicate that the disk is falling, we're going to make sure that that's on as well. Again, red object back up to the top there. Sorry, red condition. And then we are going to stop the object's animation, its movement, and that will stop it bouncing any further. Because it's a bouncing physics object, sometimes it can bounce up a little and rebound up from the bottom again. So I'm using an object which is called the easing object, and it allows you to move objects mathematically from where they are to a destination target. And in this case, I'm going to use it regardless of whether it's at the bottom or not. It'll move it down to the very bottom of the frame, and it'll mean that it always ends up right at the bottom. Also, just going to add in there first that I want to change the movement of the disk now that it's stopped back to static, so that the physics aren't acting on it anymore. So I'm going to use the easing object now. So on here I'm going to use move object. I'm going to select the disk, and there are various different you can ease in, ease out, ease in and out, ease out and in. You'll experiment with those, you'll see what they mean. I choose ease out here, and then the first function, I'm only using one, I did a quadratic. So you can see this curve. So this is the speed that the object will move at, and sort of the path it will take. And rather than just a straight line, it just makes things look a little bit smoother. It's a great way to do moving menus, moving objects to places you want on the screen in a way that doesn't look jerky, the way it stops. It's a very cool object, and you should definitely check it out. Our next thing is asking for where we want it to go. So I'm just going to pick the x coordinate of the disk, because that's fine for our purposes. It doesn't need to move sideways. Then for the y coordinate, I'm going to do the frame height, which of course you can get from storyboard frame height if you prefer to do it that way. And then I'm going to subtract from the frame height the disk's height. And that means that the disk should rest exactly on the bottom of the frame. It's going to ask me, do I want milliseconds or event loops? I'm going to choose milliseconds and 150. And so that means that when it does hit the bottom, it will, if it does bounce up at all, no, it's not fired. What's happening there then? Okay, I'm just going to put in an end application here just to see what's going on. Get rid of those. Oh, it's definitely running. Perhaps it was because I removed the pins there. I will get to that sticky board in a moment. It's bouncing up again. Let me just check what I've done here then. Move disk, ease out, X, frame height mode. Yep. That is an odd one. I'm just going to put in the next condition, which is the next test, just to see if that's what's required to stop it here. So I'm going to test the flags. Sorry. I've asked the easing object to see if the object, Flinko even, disk has stopped moving. And I'm also going to check to make sure that drop mode is on. No matter how many times I do this, I still struggle to find where that one is. Oops. Drop mode is on, and then set drop mode to off. Just try that. Interesting. So the reason it started moving there with the mouse is because I turned drop mode off, and that made this set of 4 flag checks correct. So in that instance, I will need to then set on the next mode, bucket mode. Little tip here, people don't necessarily know about this one, but if you've got a flag, you can right click it and negate, and it will actually change that, so you don't have to replace it to an on there and back and forwards. Very handy little quick tip. So let's just try that now. I'm not sure why that's not doing the right thing there. Certainly worked in my thing. I'm just going to go and look at my code for the completed frame. See what I've done wrong here. See, even us click team staff have issues sometimes, so this one is ring. Oh. Do you know what? I skipped ahead a step there. Just rename that one. There should have actually been another group in here called Disk Manager, which looked at what the disk was doing in terms of overlapping letters, and I somehow managed to miss that one. So it was a simple check: is the disk collision overlapping another object and the Flinko letters object? And then I've got a few values on the alterables for the disk, so I'm going to set those now, and those are letter fixed number. So like I said, the fixed number of every object in Fusion, we're going to store that one so that we can refer to it later. So letter fixed value, get that one in there, and then the other two, next one is store the number of the letter. This was the instance value that I set for each of the objects in the frame editor, the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to retrieve the instance value from the letter object, and that will give us a number 0 to 6. And then the other one, we are going to retrieve the is lit. state. So we're going to do letter is lit. When the letters light up, I switch a flag on each letter to on or off. So I'm going to retrieve that flag called light on from the letter that it's overlapping. So if it was the letter F and the light was on, then we would have a letter number of 1 and this flag would be on, so it would store a 1 in there. This allows us to see what the disk is doing now in terms of which letter it's over, and it monitors that at all times and just keeps updating those values, and so that when we come down to later on here, it means we can look at which letter has been hit and light it up, or turn the light off, or play some sounds, various different actions. So I'm still not entirely sure why this is not moving correctly, but I'm just going to leave it for now because it doesn't actually affect the gameplay. It works in the complete game frame here that you can see. Rather than slow the stream down debugging, I shall just move on there. So in the bucket mode is enabled here because we've hit the bottom. Easing object has stopped. Even though it's not going to the right place, it's stopped where it needs to. So the next action I'm going to add is setting a global value. And I'm going to change this one called lights lit. And I'm going to add together from the flags I showed you earlier on the disk. I have FLINKO. So I'm going to add F, oops, and L, and so on. And because, even though it's a flag, you can convert it into a normal number and add them together like this. So if none are lit, you'll get 0. And if all of them are lit, you would get 6. So it is a way to monitor how many lights you've got lit. Obviously, when someone has got all 6 lit, that's when, I spelled that right? FLINK and O. So when all that number there is equal to 6, that means the player's won, and you can take an action to deal with that. I'm going to use another fast loop here, which I'm going to call bucket mode. And I'm going to use this to one loop. If you enter 0, it will loop forever, I think. Or was it -1? Yeah, so make sure if you want something to run once, you put in a 1, otherwise your application can lock up. It's running a loop forever. Right, so I'm going to make a subgroup in here, and I'm going to call it switch lights on. The group doesn't mean anything in particular, it's just a useful way to nest your code so that you can, if you've got a long section, you can close that and then work on the switch lights off bit afterwards without having to scroll through all this to look, reference back up to here. So we're working with the bucket mode loop that we've started here. Oops. Dragging for some reason. Oh, just type it again. And we're going to test global value. Sorry, not a global value, my mistake. And we're going to see whether the letter is lit. And where did I store it? There, alterable values of the disk. Letter is lit. So we're going to say 0. So this is a positive. So the aim is to get all the lights on. So if the light is already not on, it's 0, and that means we need to light it up, and that will change that to 1. And we're also going to check the letter number, because if you get it into the one either side, the no entry symbol, that's a loss. So we're going to check the letter number is greater or equal to 1, which is F. And then we're going to do letter number is lower or equal to 6, which is the O. And if we have met those conditions, that means the light can turn on. So I'm going to set the bucket mode off, the flag on the disk. And I'm going to start another loop. So you can start loops within loops within loops if you want to. And I'm going to say this loop is called light on. And for one loop. Order. And then after that happens, there'll be another loop we run called reset disk. So I'll just copy and paste that. We'll see what that one does later. It just puts the disk back up to the top so the next turn can take place. Again, one loop. So on the loop, light on. We are going to do a test for that global value that counted the number of lights that are lit. So I'm going to choose lights lit, and I'm going to say if it is lower than 5, and what I'm doing here, red back up to the top for green, testing to see if there are 2 or more lights left to light up. If it's 1, we play the you've won sound. If, i.e. it's the last light to light up, if there are more lights to light up, it plays a different noise. So for the less than 5, we're playing a sample called Bucket Hit. And then I'm going to just copy and adapt that line. So if that one equals 5, so 5 are already lit, you're coming to light your 6th one, and in that instance that means you've won. So we're going to play the game win sound. I'll leave it at 1. In the main demo I actually played it twice. No, I'll keep it correct. So samples, and where are we? Play and loop sample, and 2 loops, just so there's 2 fanfares. Okay, and so that's played the sound. Hopefully that will... I'm not getting very lucky with that one, am I? Okay, so it's playing the right sound. Now we need to actually light up the light. So I'm going to do light on, loop again, and we stored the fixed value of the letter in the disk alterable values here. So I'm going to retrieve the letter fixed number, again the unique number that every object has. So we collided disk with the letter, took its fixed number from the letter, and now we're asking Fusion to call that letter back up so we can get some more information from it and do things to it. So oh, my apologies, wrong way around. We are trying to call the object, so I am asking for Fusion to test to see the fixed value of the letter object, I was doing it the wrong way around there, is equal to the alterable value where we stored the letter earlier, its fixed number. So that means that even though all the way back up here in a completely different event we stored that number, back down here in this loop, we can now ask Fusion to select this particular letter once again. So we're now going to do some things to that letter. So I'm going to change the RGB coefficient, which is under Effects. RGB coefficient, as I said earlier, allows you to recolor objects. In this case, I'm going to make it bright. And if you remember, we stored in a global value right at the very beginning in the start of frame events, light on. So that's the red, green, blue value that we created with the get RGB expression. So we're turning that one up to bright. And because this light is now on, I'm going to use the flag that I have on each light object, light on, and turn that on. So now this check up here, if the disk hit it again, it would be able to see that that light was on. I'm now going to create the glow object. So I'm going to create a new object, and I'm going to create this one, letters glow, and I'm going to do it relative to the letter object that we've selected by its fixed number there. The glow is larger. It happens to be 88 pixels wider, so half of that is 44. So we're going to set it 44 to the left and above of the letter that's selected. Then in the glow object, I have an alterable value here, and it is called letter fixed number. So this is exactly the same number that we stored, that we're using here to select the letter object. We're going to store it in the glow object so that we can link it to this letter object that we've chosen here that the disk hit at some later point. If the light goes out, we need to delete the correct glow, so that will allow us to recall which one. So I'm setting that value to the alterable value we stored, the letter fixed number from the disk object again. Then I'm going to change the animation sequence of the glow. Sorry, the animation direction. And I'm going to use an expression here. And I'm going to retrieve back from the disk again the letter number, which we got from the instance value of the light object that we hit. And that was 0 to 6, with 1 to 6 being the letters for Flinko. So that glow object will now match the same letter, just obviously a blurred one, that the letter we've hit is showing. So if it's a 1, both the letter will show F and the glow will show F. And because I had hidden the glow object at the start in its setup under the object properties, I'm just going to also check the visibility up to reappear. Finally, I need to bring the disk back to the front. Always forget this one. Order, bring to front. As I explained earlier, we've now created a glow because it's more recently created than the disk. It means that the glow is above it. So this just brings the disk back up into the front. And I'm also going to change the flag in the disk object. I'm going to set on. Now we have the letters F-L-I-N-K-O as flags. This one starts at number 4. So I'm going to use a calculation, and I'm going to say number 3, and then I'm going to say plus the letter number. Now what that does is it's calling the flag, instead of picking it by its name or from the list, you're picking it based on those index numbers. You saw 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I'm adding the letter number to 3. The letters started, the flag's letters, sorry, the letters flag started at 4. So the first letter we have will be 1. So the 3 plus 1 would equal 4. And as you saw, there we go, the flags. So that's flag number 3 by index plus the 1 for a letter F or 2 for a letter L. And that means we're asking it to set the flag based on that calculation. It's a very, very useful way to do things when you have lots of values that you may need to expand at a later time. And so you don't get stuck. You could, for example, just start using a value at index 100 and then work from there. And no matter how big the number of flags you needed got, you could keep referring to new ones at runtime. That's a useful technique. So we have set the light on. I'm going to also, in the next event, use the same light on loop, and I'm just going to copy this lights lit action here just to refresh the number of discs, sorry, number of letters that are lit based on those flags stored in the disk object. Then we need to handle the next one, which is a mist bucket. So light on is now finished, and if you recall, we fired light on here from bucket mode if it was a successful lighting up. Now bucket mode, light on, has finished its loop. We're not having any more of these, so we're going to continue on with bucket mode. So we're going back to the original loop that called light on, that was run up here, and we're going to test to see if the fixed value of the light object, the letter, sorry, is equal to the stored value. It's not being nice to me. There we go. So again, we are referencing that light object that we stored when the disk hit the letter object in. Sorry, if I call it a light object, I mean letter object. So we are testing to see if the letter is 0, and that is the out of bounds ones here, based on the instance value that we set. So we're going to add from the stored letter number in the disk, just as before, letter number, but this time equals 0. Put that down there. So that means we know it's an out of bounds one, so we've got to do something different than we did up here. In this case, we are going to play a sample. And I have bucket miss. And I am also going to call that same reset disk loop that I started up here, because we will need to reset the disk ready for the next go, and we'll get to this loop later. Then the next one is, I'm just adding these in just to break it up a little bit so it's a bit clearer to see. On bucket mode, loop again, and we are going to do exactly the same test. Does this fixed value equal the stored fixed value from the letter we hit? And this time we are wanting to see unlike up here, we said 0, it's not already lit. We're going to say this one is the letter is lit that we stored 1. So this one is already lit up. And we are also going to do the same test 1 to 6 because we don't want to deal with the out of bounds here, just the letters. So copying from up there. So on the loop bucket mode, pick the letter that we hit again. The stored value of whether it was lit, we want this one to be one that's on, and it needs to be a letter number between 1 and 6. If that does happen, we're going to set bucket mode flag off, because it will go back into resetting for the next go. It's no longer detecting whether it's in the bucket because we know that that's happened. We are going to play a sample, same one as above, which I could have dragged down there, bucket miss, and we are going to start a new loop. Instead of light on, we're going to start one called light off this time. Again, just the one loop. And then after that, we will also sorry, I was just getting some strange feedback in my ear from our Discord server over there. We will also run the reset disk loop there, and that will get it ready for the next turn. So now that we've called the light off loop, we need to do some actions with that. So condition light off, and in light off we are going to do this exact same test again so that we can recall that same letter number. And we are also, now that we've selected the letter that we had before, we are also going to use it to reference the fixed number of the glow object. So again, the fixed value, the unique number, and we stored in this value sorry, let me just check my logic here. I don't do the wrong thing. Letter fixed number. My mistake. I thought I'd done something wrong there. In an alterable value of the glow object, we stored the letter fixed number. So do you remember further up here we knew the letter, we created a glow, and we stored the fixed number of the letter that created the glow in this alterable value of the glow. So we can say, is this value equal to the stored number that we've got from the letter, which is in our disk. So as well as selecting the light letter object, we've also been able to select the matching glow object. So now that when we delete this, it won't just delete all of them. Fusion knows exactly which ones to deal with. So the first thing we're going to do is, like we did here, set the RGB coefficient, but instead of light on, I'm going to use light off. This is a global value we stored, if you remember. Light on and light off that we calculated right at the start of the frame. So, oops, I cancelled my change there. So it's now set the light to dark, and also because the letter light is going off, I'm going to set off the flag light on, so the light is no longer off. We've selected this glow object. We don't need it anymore because the light's gone out in the letter, so we can just destroy that. And then finally, we are going to update the flag for whichever letter this is. Exactly the same as up here. Flag 3 plus the letter number to correctly pick the flag we want for the letter based on the index number. And again, I can right click and negate that just to turn that one off instead. So now it will turn off the light, destroy the glow, and set the flag back to 0 to show that it's off, so that when we count them again in these events, it will be one lower with them all added together. The next thing we need to do is deal with the reset. So I'm going to do a new group of events called reset disk. This will deal with putting the disk back up to the top so that we can start playing again. So we've already called reset disk in several places here. So we're going to start working with that here. So on loop, reset disk. And we're going to say, are the number of lights lit, which we stored in this global value, lights lit equal to 6. And we calculated these up here. So what we're saying here is if all 6 lights are lit up, then the player has won. So we're going to activate a group of events called one game. Oops. Which isn't going to be active at the start of the frame. So I'm going to activate that there. Now, I'm also going to set another flag on the disk, set on win mode, so that we know that we're dealing with a win state for the game. Finally, I'm going to do a few things to make the win objects appear. In the top frame, if I go back to the frame here, you see I've got a frame here which is currently hidden at start here. So we're going to make that all visible so that it can start doing the player one thing. So the first thing to do is to make that object reappear, then make that object reappear, and finally I'm going to use the layer object, and this is a built-in it's not built-in, it's one of the click team objects that you can add to your frame. It's not one of the default objects. It lets you deal with layers, so controlling individual layers or moving objects around in layers, all sorts of different things. In this case, we're going to go to layer by name, and we're going to set its visibility to show. And oh, I'm actually going to do that by index because I didn't give it a name, so it's number 5. So just to show you again, that's layer 5 there. I could have typed in a name, but on this occasion I haven't. So add layer object, layers by index this time, set the visibility to on, and we want layer 5. So in addition to showing the spiral and the U-win symbol and showing the layer, I'm also going to hide the disk because that no longer needs to be seen. And finally here, I'm going to add a condition, and I'm going to do when the user clicks the mouse, left button, and if flag, apologies, that should have been a condition. If the flag is on win mode, so we're dealing with a win, then restarts the application, and that will allow the game to start again. I think that was everything. Oh, I did do one thing there I missed. So I muddled up my notes here. 68, 62. Well, I'm going to show you in the completed one, because I've lost where I was in my notes, so bear with me. So the bit that I hadn't done there was the reset disk. Oh, so there was this other action. So as well as activating the one game loop group and setting win mode to on and making these objects appear, although Fusion doesn't seem to be showing all the objects there, oddly. So we also need to do the actual reset of the disk so that it goes back up to the top if it wasn't a win state. So win mode goes on there, so it would disable this next event from happening if a win has happened. So in this case it hasn't. So on the loop reset disk, we're saying if the win mode is off, we're going to set the X position of the disk back to the starting position that we stored in a global value called disk start X, and we're going to set the Y position to the top of the frame minus the height of the disk so that it's just out of sight above the frame. I could have also done -1 times the height of the disk. Setting the bucket mode off, just to make sure that's clear, because we're done with that. I'm setting reset mode on, so that we know we're in the middle of a reset. I'm setting the letter fixed number that we stored to -1, and also the stuck timer, which I will come back to shortly, back to -1. And I'm making the disk reappear, so it's now up at the top, just out of view, ready to move on. And I'm using the easing object here, so I'm asking it to move the disk using a quadratic ease out function, and I'm moving it to the starting X and Y position for the disk, and I'm doing that over 500 milliseconds. When that animation has ended and the disk is in place, we are doing a test here to see if the reset mode is on, but that object, the disk, is no longer being moved by the easing object, i.e. it's in its place and ready to go. And finally, I'm doing a test here just to make sure that the disk is at the Y position that we stored initially. If that is the case, then we set reset mode off. And with that, bucket mode, reset mode, win mode, and the other one, which I forget, drop mode, are all turned off. And that takes us right back up to all the way up here, drop mode, where they're all off and it's waiting and moving the disk around according to the mouse position again. So that gives us our completed game. I will come back to the stock mode. So, as a reminder there, let's just turn these off. Something odd is happening with the... I think I might need to restart Fusion anyway. It should be moving that ball back up to the top. But when you win, you'll notice that the animation was playing. I'm just going to close this and reopen it in case I've messed something up somewhere in the main code there. Good grief. Okay, something is strange there. I'll make sure it doesn't do that in the completed game. So, what we had for the nudge mode, I did a test to see if the disc was dropping, and I got the P velocity of the disc, and that is the physics velocity, so how fast the disc is moving. And I said if it's lower or equal to stuck disc threshold, that's a global value that I put up here so that I could change it later if I wanted to without having to go back into the code, because it's in a few places. I've set it to number 5 and that seemed to work quite well. I'm also testing to see if the disk is greater than the starting position that we stored, so it's falling, and also testing at the bottom excuse me, of the frame to see if it's above the top of those bucket walls, because it doesn't need to deal with stuck balls down there. It doesn't tend to get stuck. I also have a value here called stuck timer, and by default that's set to -1 at the start of the frame, as defined here in its alterable values. So when the ball has got stuck, i.e. it's gone below the speed, it sets that stuck timer value to the current timer plus 100 milliseconds. What that means is 100 milliseconds in the future. So the next test looks to see, is that stuck timer value no longer the off state, as it were, -1, and if the stuck timer that we stored is now lower than the timer. So what was the time plus 100, if it's now gone below the current time, i.e. 100 milliseconds on from when we stored this, then we apply a random force to the object. So I've used a random range, so the force can be anything from 0 to 250. So I've asked it to pick a random number between 100 and 130. And then in the next one, it's asking for the angle in degrees. So we want to go right and left. So 0 is right, 180 is left in coordinate terms. So we're doing 180, and I'm multiplying that by another random, 0 or 1, and then I'm multiplying that by -1. So that will either be 0 times -1, which is 0, or 1 times -1. The end result being 180 times 180 times, I think I may have made an error there. It's supposed to be anyway, saying 180 times 0. Oh, no, that's correct. 0 or times -1. So you get 0 or 180. I think. Check my maths, someone. And that applies a random force to the ball, and that helps to unstick it. And finally, this stuck timer is still different, but this one we're testing to see if the velocity of the ball has actually gone above that threshold again. And what this does is turn the stuck timer back off, because obviously when a ball drops down onto a surface, it can go quite slow. So we're testing to see it's slowed down within the next 100 milliseconds. Is it then moving at a sufficient speed again? I.e. we don't need to give it a jiggle because it's just falling naturally. And that is the game. So this will all be provided. It will be uploaded to the Reactor area, and you'll be able to have a look. I've commented everything on here, but if you have any questions, you can ask me on our Discord channel. And again, you can somewhere, my camera's the other way around, you can scan the link up there and have a look at that. And so I'm going to end it there and say thank you very much for bearing with us with this first stream. Next one hopefully will run slightly smoother, and we look forward to seeing you there. I will run the Steam sale trailer once more. Don't forget to check out those. If you download them, leave some lovely reviews for all of our talented creators. And thank you to everyone who came onto the stream. It was really appreciated, and I had a great time talking to you. I look forward to speaking to some more of you next time. Thank you very much. Good night, good day. Have a great weekend.